Hello there and welcome back to the channel. I'm Aiden H Talks. I rank, I review, and I react to movies, and sometimes I do some other different things. I realize I don't introduce myself when I start these videos, and I figured I should. My Transformers Rise of the Beast movie review did some pretty good numbers, and I figured, not all these people know who I am. Not all of these people are coming back. But if you are coming back, welcome back. And if you are new, welcome. Today I am doing something a little bit different. I figured, hey, it's June 13th. We're halfway through the year already, believe it or not. We're halfway through 2023. I have my Letterboxd list right here. Let's talk about the 5 best and the 5 worst movies of the year. Now, of course, these are just movies I watched. I have 45 films in total that are all new releases. It's not where I want it to be. I'm striving for that 100, 150 mark. We'll see if I can hit it or not. We'll check back in December, and I'll be sure to reference this video. But today we have 45 movies, and we're talking about the top 5, and we're talking about the bottom 5. And like I said, these are all 2023 releases. These are movies that I was able to watch. So if you have some in your top 5, maybe even in your top 10 or in your bottom 5 or bottom 10, I will love to check them out. So let me know in the comments down below if you have any films to recommend for me, and I could even do a review on them. I'm watching Blackberry tonight. I know that one was getting a lot of praise on Twitter. I saw somebody tweet about how it's their 3rd or 4th favorite movie of the year, so I'm gonna check that one out as well. And so I figured, since we're halfway through the month, or through the year, sorry, and one of the best movies of the year just came out, why not rank them? Also, as you can see, I've kind of livened up the room a little bit. I have this purple light. It looks like I'm doing a makeup review. I promise I'm not. I'm sticking to my word. But I don't know. I'm just trying to get something in here. I don't have my setup fully complete yet, but I'm trying to make do with what I can. We're on that grind, and we're pushing out videos. And while we wait for the banger week that it is this week, we have Extraction, The Flash, and Elementals. While we wait for that, I figured, why not get a video like this in? Flash might not break my top 5. It may. If it does, then, we'll see. All the best to it. But for now, I want to rank my top 5 and my bottom 5 movies of the year, and just kind of have a fun discussion and get a fun little video out. And on the topic of that, I think we should go ahead and get started. We'll start with the bottom 5, kind of keep things interesting, and wait for the top 5 at the end of the video. So if you stick around all the way for that, thank you so much. If you skip, again, thank you. Even you just clicking on this video means a ton. If you want to drop a subscribe, a like, or even just check out the link tree in the bio, or even follow the Letterboxd. Most important of them all, I love getting likes and attention on my Letterboxd. I would appreciate it a lot. A click is more than enough for me. So thank you so much if you decide to do that. With our bottom 5 movies of the year, we're starting with number 5, Girl in the Closet. Now, I don't think a lot of people know about this movie. I didn't. I was literally just browsing Amazon Prime looking for movies to watch, and I stumbled upon this. I pressed play, and that might have been my biggest mistake. Now, I'm really harsh on this movie, but it is based on true events. I feel like this is one of those stories that they're like, let's make a movie out of this, or like, oh my gosh, this could be a movie. When in reality, it really can't, because it's not that great. You don't have a lot pulling you towards it, or even keeping you interested in the movie. It's a real heartbreaker. I have my Letterboxd here, so if I'm looking to the left, or if I'm looking to my left, it's just because I'm reading this. I'll try and summarize. It's based on a real life event. It tells a story of a 10-year-old who was basically kidnapped by her aunt, and her aunt and her children, which is the girl's cousins, they keep all these people captive as like a way of collecting their child support. It's really odd. The movie does a better job at explaining it, surprisingly, but it just wasn't that great. It had no appeal. I found myself constantly bored throughout the movie when I really should have been interested in a plot like this. And so they do a good job at hooking you. They don't do a good job at keeping you hooked. It's like whenever you're fishing and you're like, I got a huge fish, and you just drop your fishing rod. It's like, you're not gonna catch nothing. You're not gonna bring that fish in. The fish is gonna leave because it's bored. And I probably would have been better off leaving because I was bored. But I stuck around for the full movie. And yeah, it was all right. I mean, you could tell it's very low budget, which isn't a problem at all. The acting isn't that great, except for maybe a few. But other than that, there's no real draw to this movie. It's overall just a real heartbreaker up until the end. And then even that doesn't feel that much paid off. And I get you're trying to stick to like the real life events. But like I said, not all real life events need a movie. Sometimes they come out like this. My rating, on this movie was a 5 out of 100. It was really bad. A lot of the comments on Letterboxd agree, but what's interesting is the spread is at a 2.7. So I might just be really hard on this movie. I didn't enjoy it though. I'm not gonna apologize for not liking it as much as I did. It's so far the worst movie I've watched this year. I don't know if anything will surpass it, because a 5 is very hard to surpass. And I'm sure there's some out there. Like I said, I'd be interested in hearing more about it. So Girl in the Closet, 5 out of 100. It's the 5th out of the bottom 5, so that means it's the last movie and the worst movie I've watched this year. Next up, at the number 4 spot, number 44 on my list is The Strays. Now, this has one of the funniest reviews on Letterboxd I think I've ever seen. The top comment says, "This is if AI tried to recreate Get Out." And that's the perfect way to explain this movie. It came out on Netflix. I can't remember when I watched it, but basically the summary is a black woman's meticulously crafted life of privilege starts to unravel when 2 strangers show up in her quiet suburban town. And that's exactly what this movie is. You know, it's this lady who is running away from her past, and when her past catches up to her, things fall out. I turned this movie off. I was not the biggest fan of it. It was boring. And if the budget was any lower, you know, because this is a really well-made movie. The cinematography is great. You know, it's that typical movie feel. You can look at it and be like, oh, that's a great shot. Whereas Girl in the Closet, you couldn't at all. The Strays was just a meh movie. You know, and like I said, it's if AI tried to recreate a Jordan Peele movie. I have this rated at 15 out of 100. And not even the climax of the movie was enough to keep me interested. There is some good acting performances in this, but that's about it. It's not a good one. And any of these bottom 5 I don't recommend. Now, as we get towards, you know, 1, 2, and 3 of the bottom stuff, you might recognize some of these movies. But these two, The Strays, you might be familiar with. It came out on Netflix, as I said. Not the best. Not the best movie at all. It just seems like they tried to take a really interesting story, a really interesting plot, but they couldn't just capitalize on it. They couldn't capitalize on it, and they couldn't keep you interested. And, you know, it suffers the same quarrels I had with Girl in the Closet. And so Strays, again, not a great movie. However, at number 3, we have something a little bit better. At Midnight, obviously, came out this year. This is the famous Soups cameo that everyone was talking about. At midnight, Alejandro's life is disrupted when actress Sophie Wilder stays at his hotel. To their surprise, the two fall for one another, meeting at midnight. Now look, this is one of those where, like, if you just want to watch a nice little cheesy, sappy rom-com, you can. I mean, the performances are amazing in this movie. Like, they are nothing to mess around with. It's great. I forget the actress's name, but she was amazing, and even the lead actor in this is amazing as well. Monica Barbaro. I believe she's in Top Gun Maverick as well. Great, phenomenal performances by both of them. Again, there's just a lot of cheesy stuff that happens in this. It kind of feels like a Disney Channel movie at points. It's very weird. It seems like they wanted to hit that rated R mark, but they also wanted to keep it PG for like general audiences, and it never really meshed well. A lot of tonal shifts. But like I said, at the core of it, it's a nice cheesy rom-com, and so there's that going for it, which is why I'm not super harsh on this movie, but just a lot of the other stuff doesn't work. It's a nice little cutesy love story. There's just a lot of stuff in here that it just seems real Disney Channel. I don't know how else to describe it. I think this dude walks on one of her sets while she's filming a movie. He walks on set and professes his love to her. And instead of like the crew being like, get out of here, and just putting an end to that right away, they stand there, and after his speech, they all say, oh, and start clapping. It's extremely weird. But has a happy ending. Like I said, cheesy little rom-com. I'm not too mad at it. I'm a sucker for love, hopeless romantics. And so if there's a movie I can cry at, if there's a movie that is a nice, cute rom-com, I'd be down to watch it. And so that's why I watched this movie, and kind of regret it. So that is At Midnight. It is my 43rd favorite movie of the year. Again, out of 45, that's not the best compliment. Now, at 42, we have a little shift. You know, we're not dealing with a rom-com. We're not dealing with really bad thrillers. We're dealing with a comedy action movie that wasn't good at all. Now, A lot of people might have watched this movie. It was very accessible and it has a big name to it. It's Die Hard. Kevin Hart's big action movie, directed by Eric Apple. And Kevin Hart, playing a version of himself, is on a death-defying quest to become an action star. And with a little help from John Travolta and Nathalie Emmanuel and Josh Hartnett, he might just pull it off. And so, yeah, this movie wasn't that great. It wasn't great, and you don't have Kevin Hart to save it. You don't have John Travolta to save it. I have this movie at a 34 out of 100. Honestly, I'd probably bump it down a bit. It's not good at all. It's a typical Kevin Hart movie, and I hate saying that because I've seen this man put on wonderful performances. Kevin Hart is not a bad actor, but he keeps picking up these roles, and it's funny because that's the focal point of this movie, is that he wants to be taken serious as an actor. He wants to be an action star. He feels like he has it, and he does, which is so ironic. It's so meta because it's like, bro, you're a good actor. Fire your agent or something. Pick up some better movies. This one just didn't do it for me. It's cheesy, it's dumb. It has its moments where you're kind of chuckling, but overall it's just boring. There's nothing drawing you to it. The plot is very, very predictable, and it's just one of those movies that you can just throw on and you'll probably turn off halfway through. I watched it all the way. The performances weren't that great. Like I said, none of these actors or actresses in this movie can save it, which is a bummer because I want Kevin Hart to actually put on a really good performance in a really good movie. And so whenever he keeps coming out with movies like this, it's not the best. It's not the best. So 34 out of 100, Die Hard. Again, just another whatever movie. And so with that, we come down to our number one, which isn't really our number one. It's our fifth, 41 out of 45. It's You People. This was one of the earlier releases this year. Came out in like early January. And so at that point in time, we know how January and February go most years. You're looking for something to watch. You're looking for a movie that's not Megan to go watch. And so when this came out on streaming, I mean, the trailer looked very funny. Again, kind of an interesting summary, but not a lot to draw. So let's get into this. First, I need a water break. You People, 2023 release, directed by Kenya Barris. Opposites attract, families don't. A new couple and their families reckon with modern love amid culture clashes, societal expectations, and generational differences. Man, is that a mouthful. You People is basically Jonah Hill having his Jewish family meet his girlfriend's black family, Lauren London, and her family. This movie was bad. There was no chemistry between these two. And you could tell because, oh man, I don't even like saying this. I don't even like acknowledging this. They CGI'd their last kiss. They CGI'd the final kiss. If you're gonna make a rom-com, if you're gonna make a movie where we're supposed to take y'all serious as a couple and think that y'all are an actual couple and y'all have an actual relationship, why are you not kissing? Why do you have to CGI the final kiss? Why do you have to CGI the final kiss? I don't understand. I don't understand. If that tells you anything about their chemistry in this movie, then you know what I'm talking about. You People, I had rated at a 40 out of 100. Again, a lot of the editing in this movie is very, very impressive. You know, the transitions they use, the little New York, Brooklyn feel. I can't remember if it's New York, LA. Might be LA, not too sure. Forgettable movie. And then some of the performances, like I said, Jonah Hill is hilarious in this. It has its moments where it's very funny. You have Eddie Murphy, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Like, it's a pretty good cast. You have Andrew Schultz in here, who is bad in this movie. But like, other than that, you have a stat cast, and you can't tell a compelling story. This movie also juggles a lot of heavy themes, and sometimes I feel like they don't know where to take them. They don't know what they're trying to convey, and I'm all for conveying these messages. I'm all for talking about these topics, but like, you need a direction. You need a direction of where you're gonna start the movie and where you're gonna end off with. And so it was also just a lot of like, hey kids, is this what y'all are into these days? And so it just overall it came off as weird. You have a lot of important themes that you don't know what to do with. You're juggling a lot of heavy stuff. You have no chemistry whatsoever between your two main characters, to the fact where you have to like CGI a final kiss, which is still insane to me. You have a stacked cast that you can't capitalize on. Overall, just it turned out to be a really bad and disappointing movie. 40 out of 100, You People, is number one in my top 5 worst movies of the year. I say number one, it's 40 out of 45. So that is my top 5. We have You People at 40. We have Die Hard at 42, At Midnight 43, The Strays, and Girl in the Closet. Lots of bad movies, and then some honorable mentions: Shotgun Wedding, Pale Blue Eye, and Fast X. Now, the moment y'all have all been waiting for. Let's praise some movies real quick, shall we? Let's talk about some really, really good ones, because we have some great movies on here. 2023 has been insane with its movies, and it's only going to go up from here. It's only going to go up from here. This top 5 is for sure going to change with the amount of stuff we have coming up. Oppenheimer, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon. We have a lot of really good stuff coming up, and there's way more that I'm forgetting right now. So let's talk about the top 5 favorite movies of the year. Kicking things off at the number 5 spot of 2023, we have Ben Affleck's Air. I gotta adjust my seat for this one because I love this movie so much, but I know a lot of people wouldn't. You know, this isn't typically in a lot of people's top 5, but for me, God, I love this movie. And I'm definitely planning on rewatching it now that it's on Amazon Prime. Air 2023, directed by Ben Affleck. The tagline is, "Some icons are meant to fly." Discover the game-changing partnership between a then undiscovered Michael Jordan and Nike's fledgling basketball division, which revolutionized the world of sports and culture with the Air Jordan brand. Now, obviously, this is the story about how Nike was able to strike gold on their big shoe. I have a review for this movie up on my channel if you want to check it out. I talk about it in a ton of depth. I loved the movie so much. My rating on it was a 90 out of 100. I'm extremely high on it. I mean, just look at this cast: Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Viola Davis, Chris Tucker, Chris Messina, Matthew Maher, Marlon Wayans, and a ton more. And they all deliver amazing performances. One thing I love about this movie is that they strayed away from showing Michael Jordan's face, because this story isn't about him. In a way, it kind of is, but it's more so like, hey, let's focus on the actual like people in this story that we're trying to talk about. The people in Nike headquarters, the people that are making these risks and taking these gambles on what could be career-threatening decisions. And so the character of Matt Damon, who we start off seeing is constantly going to casinos, we tie that in with him making the biggest gamble ever on signing Michael Jordan. And of course, it doesn't just affect his life. It affects Ben Affleck's life. I forget the character he's playing, but like the CEO of Nike. If this goes all wrong, if they put their entire budget on one player and he even so much as gets hurt, it's all over. And the character that Jason Bateman is playing, you know, he has his whole family lying on this deal. He brings his daughter Jordans, and that's what she looks forward to every time she gets to visit with him, because he's divorced. And rather than pulling away, he sticks by Matt Damon's side and he sees the vision. And the vision, as we all know, ends up paying off. I love my biopics. I forget where I have Tetris ranked. Tetris, I wish, was still in the top 5, but there's so much other movies that came out. It's at my 7. Tetris was another absolutely amazing movie that I fell in love with this year. And Air is no different. I have this at a 90 out of 100, I think I've already said. And it's just one of those movies that I will always think about. It's one of those hardcore dad movies that I would love to throw on and just sulk in time and time again. And the feeling I got in the theater, you know, the tense moments, the feeling of like, will this or will this not work out, even though in my head I know, was just such a fun ride to be on, man. It's such an unforgettable movie that I fell in love with early on this year. And so it's at my number 5 spot right now. Do I think that has a chance to change? Yes. I mean, it was at my number 4 spot before another movie came out, which I'll talk about later. It was at my number 4 spot. It's at my 5 now, and I'm sure it'll slip out, but I'm happy that it stayed in that spot up until now, so that at this halfway point, I can talk about it again, because any chance I get to speak about it, I will. We were going to put on a movie last night. I was with my girlfriend. We were at her sister's house, and I came across Air, and I was like, should we watch it? But I was like, they're not gonna care about that story. But hey, I'd be more than fine with watching it again. So Air is my number 5 out of my top 5 favorite movies of the year. Now, what's at my 4, you may ask? Is that what you're asking? What's at my number 4? I'm glad you asked. It's Creed 3, my most anticipated movie this year, and I'm so glad that it's still here in the top 5 because that means it was most anticipated for a reason. I was not let down by this movie one bit. It's one that I could not stop thinking about or talking about for months after it came out. Creed 3, directed by Michael B. Jordan. You can't run from your past is the tagline, and I think we all know the summary. I say that because it's a pretty long one right here. I don't want to get too long-winded. Michael B. Jordan having to carry the Rocky franchise on his back with this 3rd installment of Creed. We're not dealing with Ryan Coogler, unfortunately. I think it was because of tie-ins with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I'm not too sure. But Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut was fascinating. It was so good. Let me see what I have this movie rated. It is a 92 out of 100. It lived up to the hype. It's a perfect 3rd movie for what the Creed movies are. Adonis's past coming back and haunting him. I love the little subtle message of men not being able to talk about their feelings and the consequences that can have. Because we see Adonis constantly running from it. I mean, that's the tagline, you can't run from your past. And we see how that affects him once it gets up to him. And the character of Damien being a contrast to the superhero-esque character of Adonis Creed. The same way that in the Rocky movies you had Drago, someone from Russia who also has his internal grievances, who needs to win this fight, going up against the Superman that is Rocky. So Michael B. Jordan being able to carry this movie and deliver it in such a way that just like makes you not even think twice about who is directing this, and the fact that he was able to step up to the plate and deliver a movie that was as good as this is something that we need to acknowledge. And so like that last fight scene, him putting his little spin on it and taking that risk, taking the risk of doing what he did in that final fight and having it pay off. It was phenomenal. Everything in this story, the soundtrack, his childhood, up until that final fight, the culmination of everything that Damien's been dealing with, everything that Adonis has been dealing with. It was such a wonderful movie. I fell in love with it, walked out of the theater. I was so high on it, and I rewatched it 2 more times after that. If you want to watch my review on Creed 3, it's on this channel, and we also did a podcast episode on it, Words from the Nerds podcast, shameless plug. Creed 3 is my 4th favorite movie of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the top 3. We have my top 3 favorite movies of 2023. And if you're wondering what number 3 is, I have it for you right here. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. A lot of 3s in this top 5. We have Creed 3 and we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We have some other numbers coming up, just a little tease. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, obviously directed by James Gunn. Tagline is once more with feeling. Peter Quill, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally his team around him to defend the universe along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. A lot of big stakes in this movie. Not any world-ending stakes. If I guess you could say high evolutionary, wanting to create his own perfect world and then eventually the universe. That could be some pretty groundbreaking stakes, but they play it as a really close to heart story. Everything with Rocket, everything that Rocket has dealt with, and focusing the story on that. There's a moment where Lila says, the story's always been yours, you just haven't seen it yet. And so James Gunn had me sobbing over a CGI raccoon. He had me sobbing over this family that we've learned to love over the past 9 years. And it was all around a perfect 3rd movie in what has been an almost perfect trilogy. We expected the Guardians Volume 3 movie to live up to what Volume 2 and Guardians 1 have done. And they have seemed to master that family emotion, that family feel to this ragtag group that nobody even really knew about in 2014. And to take their story all the way to this is something that was enough to have me sobbing a couple times in the theater. There's a lot, like the tagline says, once more with feeling. There's a lot of feeling in this. There is a lot of emotions. And if we want to just talk about pure movie making aspects, I mean, some of this, not some, the CGI was perfect. CGI was perfect. I could not find a lot of mistakes at all. The prosthetics are beautiful. The makeup in here deserves at least a nomination at the Oscars, because this work shouldn't go under the radar. It shouldn't. It should be acknowledged because it's amazing. I love that every Guardian had their fair share of emotional moments. Even people like Drax towards the end of the movie was wonderful. Gamora and Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, sorry. Gamora and Star-Lord getting their moment after everything that's happened in Infinity War and Endgame was beautiful as well. Overall, just a movie that, you know, if you turn on, you will be sobbing, you will be crying. It's wonderful. It's wonderful, and I cannot wait to buy this movie on DVD so I can watch it as much times as I want. Guardians Volume 3, I had it at a 93 out of 100. It's my third favorite movie of the year. Just an absolute masterpiece that James Gunn has delivered to us. And so it's one that I won't forget. It's one that will stand the test of time, and I'm excited to see where that time does take us, especially with James Gunn being at DC. That'll be very interesting. My number 2 favorite movie of the year. We're getting down to the good in this list, and I'm very excited for this one. John Wick Chapter 4 is my number 2 favorite movie of the year. Tagline is "No way back, one way out." With the price on his head ever increasing, John Wick uncovers a path to defeating the High Table. But before he can earn his freedom, Wick must face off against a new enemy with powerful alliances across the globe and forces that turn old friends into foes. And I really like that last part, turning old friends into foes. I was interested to see what that would mean. And so the character that Donnie Yen plays in here, again, a blind man, if we remember from Rogue One, playing a blind man again, and the villain of Bill Skarsgård and how he's able to turn a character like Donnie Yen's against John Wick in this movie. It was so beautiful, man. I mean, not even just a story, like the movie, the cinematography, the way that we change locations, it feels like a video game. And every step that John Wick takes in order to get to Bill Skarsgård's character in this movie and having to face like a final boss almost at each of these levels, it felt like a perfect action movie. You have your story in this. You have everything that you've been building up since the first John Wick. And you take it to all of these crazy levels, and you hit all of these emotional beats. You hit all of these moments that are important to a fourth John Wick movie, and you get a masterpiece like this. And you get a beautiful movie like this. I'm so happy that they got past like just the pure action, and they focus on how beautiful and how beautifully shot this movie is. And I know I'm rambling. I know some of that might not have made sense because right now it's not making sense to me. But there's just, I'm running out of words to explain like how much I love the movie, if that makes sense. I have John Wick Chapter 4 as a 96 out of 100, 5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's a wonderful movie. It's one that I will not forget about again. A lot of unforgettable movies in here. And it's one that I really want to rewatch because it's that good. I rewatched it twice in theaters and I had a blast every single time. Everything in that last 30 to 40 minutes and how tense all of the situations are and how they're able to just master that feeling and how they're able to put that into you while you're watching the movie is something that should not be overlooked. And so John Wick Chapter 4, a lot of people seem to agree, is one of the best movies of the year. And for me, it's my number 2, and I'm proud of that. And the reason why it's not my number 1 is because of a movie that came out very recently, Across the Spider-Verse. I did a review on this one. Again, you can watch that here on the channel. And I also did a podcast episode, Words from the Nerds podcast. Go check it out. Directed by Joaquin Dos Santos, Justin K. Thompson, and Kent Powers. Across the Spider-Verse, the second movie in the Spider-Verse saga. And I say saga, but it's looking like it'll be a trilogy. Beyond the Spider-Verse coming out next year, hopefully, if it doesn't get delayed. Beyond the Spider-Verse coming out next year and looking like it'll be the end to Miles Morales' story. It's how you wear the mask that matters. Oh, just what a beautiful tagline. Going from anyone can wear the mask to it's how you wear it that matters. It's like it mirrors Miles's story perfectly. He goes from anyone can wear the mask to seeing those people that don't wear it in the way that matters, aka Miguel O'Hara, and going through this movie, finding out that he needs to let his father die because it's a canon event, and if he doesn't, it could ruin the multiverse, is absolutely beautiful. You set these huge universe-shattering stakes, and you give them on Miles, this 15-year-old kid who just learned how to be Spider-Man, and you give him those challenges because that's what Spider-Man goes through. That's what he does. That is the character of Peter Parker, taking on this burden and this weight that is having superpowers, but using it in the best way possible because he knows if he doesn't, he's the problem. It's what Tom Holland Spider-Man said. When you can do what you do and you don't stop those people from doing the bad things, they happen because of you. I'm sorry, I fumbled that completely, but you know what I mean. The quote he tells Tony Stark in Civil War. And this movie does that perfectly. I mean, animation aside, beautiful animation aside, wonderful, perfect soundtrack aside, and the overall like infinite possibilities of the multiverse that they capitalize on in this movie, all of that aside, the story and the heart that this movie has, seeing Miles go on this journey, that line, man, I'm sorry, I'm rumbling. I'm fumbling over all my words. I'm just rambling, I'm rambling because I love this movie so much. And I got to rewatch it the other day, and I love it just the same. But, you know, Miles sitting there saying, everyone's telling me how my story's supposed to go. No, I'm gonna do my own thing. Wonderful. It's such a good movie. The highest rated movie on Letterboxd for a good reason. This might be this year's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to beat this movie because it's just that much of a masterpiece. It's one that I have not been able to stop thinking about. I haven't been able to stop listening to the soundtrack. It's overall as close to a perfect movie as you can get. Across the Spider-Verse, I have it a 97 out of 100. It's my 4th favorite comic book movie ever. And that honestly might move up with a couple more rewatches. And everything that they set up in this movie for Beyond the Spider-Verse is just as good. And so I can't get over how amazing this movie is. It's at my #1 spot for a reason. And you can see that I'm like way happier. I don't think this smile has left my face talking about this top 5 rather than talking about my bottom 5. And so Across the Spider-Verse falls as my #1 favorite of the year. At my 6, 7, and 8, since I did it for my bottom 5, I'll do it for my top 5. 6, 7, and 8. At 6 is Beau is Afraid. Yeah, I'm really high on Beau is Afraid. I know a lot of people aren't. I love what that movie was able to do. I'm sad I couldn't get a review out on it, but man, that movie's so good. At number 7, Tetris. Again, like I mentioned when I was talking about Air, these biopics about these underdogs making a huge business decision or taking a huge risk will get me every time. And if you have Taron Egerton in your movie, I'm sitting in that theater. I'm sitting in that theater, or I'm sitting on that couch watching. So Tetris is my number 7, and at number 8 is Suzume, animated film that came out earlier this year. Wonderful story. Again, brought a tear to my eye. It's just one of those that you had to be there for. And so those are my top 5 favorite movies of the year: Across the Spider-Verse, John Wick 4, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Creed 3, and Air. Now, it's funny because those top 4 are all sequels. We have a number 2, a number 4, and then 2 number 3s. So this year has been the year of franchise movies, the year of trilogy movies, and so far they've all been bangers. Of course, there have been some in here that weren't that great, like Ant-Man Quantumania, but and Shazam 2. But like this top 5, I'm so happy with. Air, Creed 3, Guardians, John Wick 4, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm very happy with this list. Let me know your top 5. Let me know your bottom 5. And again, if you have seen a movie this year that I haven't and you want to know why it's not in my top 5, or you just want to recommend it to me, I'll be more than happy to check it out. And same goes for the bottom. If you've seen a movie that is absolutely horrible and you want me to check it out, I'll even do a review on it and just talk about how I feel on it. But that does it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's a little bit different. I'm kind of nervous. I've never done anything other than a review or a reaction, other than a tier list for MCU villains. And so this one will be kind of new, but I wanted to sit down and get this video out. It's June 13th. We're halfway through the year. I want to give out my halfway year mark. And if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, it's Aiden H Talks. Aiden H Talks. It'll be in the link tree in the bio if you can't find it. And so go show that some support, because that is by far what I care about the most. I love getting those notifications on Letterboxd. But on a more serious note, if you like the video, if you want to comment, I appreciate that as well. Like, subscribe, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like doing. Even you just clicking on this video helps a lot. So if you stayed this long, thank you. I know this was a little bit of a longer one, but I was very excited to do this, and I was very excited to record this. And if at any point in this movie I didn't make sense or I fumbled on my words, please forgive me. It's 1 a.m. And this video idea just came to mind, and so I wanted to sit down and just ramble and not make as much edits as possible just to get the video out quicker. So if at any point in this movie I came off as rambling or fumbling over my words such as that, please forgive me. If you want to check out any of my other movie reviews or any of these top 5 reviews, top 5 movies of the year that I have reviewed, it'll all be on the page. And so if you want to check that out, I appreciate it a lot. Even you just clicking on the video is amazing. So without further ado, that is my ranking. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.